again folks, and welcome to this week's video. So it's just the start of 2022 and I think it is time for some major renovation in the games room. As we all know, games rooms are a constantly evolving beast. Things are always changing, hopefully for the better. So I really want to sort out a few issues I have in the game room, mainly storage and lighting. But I think I have some really good ideas of how to do this. So keep an eye on this video, hopefully it'll give you some good ideas for your games room. Let's get into it. Just before we jump into this week's video, I just want to remind everyone to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel, and I put new videos out every single Saturday. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to also hit that like button. Now let's get on with the DIY. So here we have the state of the games room at the start of 2021, and straight away you can see certain things have been moved around. So as we step into the games room, you can see this glass case has been moved from across the other side of the room. This was kind of a eureka moment one evening when my wife pointed out that this unit fitted here a lot better. And what I've done is replaced it with this upright white unit you can see here. So if you can agree, it kind of fits a lot more snug than the glass unit did before. Also, I have finally got the final shelf up. So we have the collection of Pokemon stuff on the bottom shelf, and padding up, as you can see, I've added a couple of extra lights into the games room as well. Moving forward into 2021, I think lighting in the games room is one of the things I'm going to really focus in on. I just think it gives it a much warmer feel, and it just kind of makes it feel just a bit more homely, and if nothing else, it just looks really cool. One issue I do have at the moment is kind of the state of these shelves. They don't really seem to make a great deal of sense. You have Jurassic Park stuff, PlayStation VR, we have some box NES games, if you can see, just on the top shelf there, as well as just random stuff. I really want to focus this shelf in and really just make it all about the strategy guides, but it's just one of those shelves in a minute where it's just kind of a mix of everything. As I've always said before, I will literally pile stuff up to the ceiling. It's all about making the most of the space you have. When we're looking at the main media centre of the games room, there's not really a great deal of change. Just we've added the PlayStation light and the Xbox light. So I really do want to add a Nintendo light, but it's just finding one. I don't think they actually do an officially licensed one. I'm always pretty happy with these shelves. They are kind of the main area of storage in the games room. As you can see, they're absolutely getting totally filled up. They are too deep, which is something I never really wanted to happen, but it's just kind of one of those things. But I think there's definitely room to add some more shelving. So one of the things I've got planned eventually is to move the CD rack out and replace that with another IKEA Billy. And basically I'm trying to think what to do with this large area we have behind the door. So at the moment we have the small unit down here. This is the area of the games room at the moment which I have the most problem with. These little tiny drawers are where I store all of my controllers. The only problem being they have spilt out. There is nowhere near enough room in this tiny desk of drawers to fit all of my controllers. But today that is going to change. So this is how the room looks at a minute. It's pretty busy. The drawers are too small. There's nowhere to really put anything. Basically, I'm going to replace these drawers with something that's a bit more suited to the purpose, and hopefully this area will be a lot more organised and a lot less cluttered. It seems for ages I've been on the lookout for this specific set of drawers from IKEA and finally managed to find one on Facebook Marketplace. So the seller was doing a really good deal at just £20. They had done a really good description of the item as well. Sometimes pictures can be a bit blurry, but this really looked from the pictures to be exactly what I was looking for. Basically, you can get a lot of these units which do have damage, which obviously just makes it more of a pain to replace the parts. But definitely picking this up from Facebook Marketplace is a lot cheaper than getting it direct from IKEA. It was also quite a weird coincidence that somebody was selling one for £5, which seemed to be the exact same unit. Literally, it had the same description and everything, but it was from a separate seller. So I don't know if somebody just copy and pasted the description, or was, just trying to be a bit lazy and copy somebody else's word for word, or if somebody was selling it for £5, then changed it to £20. Now this is more what I'm talking about. Look at the amount of space here. Look how nice and clear the room looks, and I really do like the symmetry of it. We are really getting to the point of having a very well organised games room, and the amount of drawers I'm going to have in here, we're going to have plenty of room for all the controllers for all the consoles. So here we have the drawers all put together. You can see we have 4 big drawers and 2 smaller drawers. So one thing you do need to look out for these is these little bits in the middle are still intact. These quite often get damaged when buying a piece of furniture like this off Facebook Marketplace. One thing I will say, we have got a little tiny bit of yellowing inside the drawers, but you know, unless you're a real perfectionist, I don't think that's going to bother you too much. Obviously we've got some little nicks in the thing there, but I don't think that's too much of a concern. So I think this must have been from the bedroom, looking by the labels on here, which seem to be some kind of teenage young lad's bedroom. I think we've taken his furniture, but I'm sure they'll easily come off with a little bit of our classic Goo Gone. Another important thing to consider with these drawers is that some of them have a glass piece that sits on the top, which does top them off really nicely, but it's good to make sure this hasn't got any cracks or damage to it, as these are really quite difficult to replace, but they definitely do tie the unit together really nicely. I've tried to keep this area quite minimalist, so I just really don't want to clutter the top of the unit. So the main thing I've used it for is the storage of my DOS emulator PC, as well as this rather large and rather fetching statue from the Recore Collector's Edition. The main part of the room is obviously the 3 IKEA Billy bookcases, which contain all of my discs and games, which is probably my favourite part of the room, even though they are too deep. But the problem is I am starting to run out of space, so one of the options I have is replacing this CD rack here with another IKEA Billy. But one of the things I'm really thinking about doing is how to use this space here. So the original plan was to hang Guitar Hero guitars on this piece of open wall. But I have looked into getting a slightly smaller bookcase, which would take about the same space as this holder down here at the moment for all my cartridges, but it would be about 3 times the height, taking up to the same height as the unit next to it. What I'm kind of thinking about doing is putting in a bookshelf here and using it exclusively for my Nintendo games. So I really need to get measuring and just see if it will fit in there, because I don't want to be able to block the door. Now that I've moved a few things around, I didn't really realise how much space is actually wasted behind this door. As we all know, this is quite a small games room and space is at a premium. But I think I may have come up with the way to use this space and really maximise it for maximum storage. So using some careful mathematics, I've realised you can just about, and I do mean just about, fit in another IKEA Billy behind the door. So it might be a little bit tight on the door, but you know, for the space we are gaining, I'm pretty happy with that bit of sacrifice. So yeah, this is going to be a specialist Nintendo shelf. So yeah, room for about another 200 to 300 games. Definitely a good result. Here we have the bookcase all assembled. You can see there is plenty of shelves for storage on there. But as you go down, you can kind of notice there is definitely room for more shelves. This isn't too big a deal though. You can buy extra shelves off IKEA's website for about £10 each. So here we have the new and improved Nintendo shelf. So you can see, starting at the bottom, going all the way up, we have all the games put into lovely little sections. A little bit of Jurassic Park there. And on top, we've got the N64 boxes, Switch boxes, Game Boy and Game Boy Color, a couple of Paper Mario Kart. It's definitely really cool to have this shelf totally dedicated to Nintendo. For one of the weird things, my wife said to me, why are the Switch games all the way at the bottom of the shelf? Because they're the games we're going to be looking to play the most, and that is obvious because, as you guys all know, it is in chronological order. The next thing we need to do is reorder these shelves. Obviously now we have a couple of extra shelves available. They are kind of just covered in random bits at the moment. So what I really want to do is have it so I'm not stacking games upon games, such as down here where like the games are doubled up, and also especially like with the PlayStation 2 games and the Xbox One games just piled on top of each other. So I'm going to kind of work out how to stretch these across, and also I want to make sure I leave myself enough room to expand in the future. This is just a classic example of the stuff you do not see from behind the scenes in the games room. It takes ages to move all this stuff around. I want it to be like a 10 or 20 minute job. I think about an hour or two in now is slowly taking shape. One good thing about rearranging your collection, you kind of start to realise what is actually in your collection. Sometimes it's easy to forget. I kind of didn't realise how many PS1 games I actually have complete. So those are 2 deep. There is just a single shelf there, and just because I can, because I'm a sick individual, I've put all of these platinum games together front of house so everyone can really enjoy their silvery goodness. Again, I think you kind of forget how big your collection is. This is just PlayStation 3 games. That is a big pile of PlayStation 3 games. So all the shelves over here are quite nicely organised now. You can see there's definitely some room to expand on the shelves, so they look quite nice. Definitely like having the space and just having it not look quite as cluttered. It is a bit of a shame. Though the bottom down here is not quite as organised as I would like. A lot of the handheld stuff is just kind of rammed in there. But it's because eventually we will add the extra shelf on here where the CD rack is. The only issue we have at the moment is I have nowhere to put all of these Master System and Mega Drive games as of yet. So definitely need to have a think of what to do with those. After a little bit of a think and a cry, I think what I'm going to probably have to do for now is move this layer of PlayStation 4 games up in front of this layer of PlayStation 3 games, just to make room for the Master System. And unfortunately over here it's going to be the same kind of deal, moving these Xbox games to another shelf and just having that as Mega Drive for now. As I said, the game room is a constantly changing environment, and eventually we will be able to move another shelf over to here, which is where I'm going to really focus on like my Sega games and then all my handheld games. Here we have then all the shelves loaded back up, and yeah, we're going to go through them shelf by shelf and kind of show you how I've sorted it. So starting down here, as I said, it's not really my favourite area. It is a bit of a mess, but this is where we will be expanding to the other side of the room when I get the next bookshelf and have somewhere else in the house to put CDs. But you know, the games rooms are all about sacrifice. Like, this isn't ideal with the Saturn and kind of Dreamcast games together. And also, you know, I've got the PlayStation 4, then suddenly the Mega Drive in the middle, but it did look better before. But the Mega Drive games will be going over onto that Sega and handheld Billy in the next while whenever I move the CD rack. Heading up, you can see we've got a bit more space now to move on with the PlayStation 3. Another kind of console I think I'll be moving on to a lot more, especially as car boot season comes, so it's good to have that room to expand. Heading over here, we definitely have room to expand with the Xbox One collection, and I think this is where they're going to get super cheap very soon, as people are kind of moving away from like the Xbox One or even like kind of physical discs altogether. Moving down, one of the biggest shocks of this video, I did not realise how many PlayStation 2 games I have. PlayStation 1, kind of amateur mistake, especially the Platinum ones. I've always tried to stick away from Platinum, but I guess they've just always turned up at car boots. And going down, the PlayStation 2 definitely actually have more space now, as they were really crammed in there before. Okay, and onto the final shelf, where probably the least has changed. So heading down, you can kind of see we have got a lot of original Xbox games, but sadly now there is not a lot of room to expand, which is a shame. It's just a shade under 300 titles for this console. It's definitely one of my favourites to collect for, especially picking up at the car boots. So where the Master System games are at the moment is where I would have expanded the original Xbox games, but again, I will be expanding that when I change that and put that extra shelf on the other side of the games room. Going down, now we have 4 full shelves of Xbox 360 games as we head on to the 400 mark. So you can see at the minute there is really not a lot of room to expand on them. I've even got a few original Xbox games hiding out at the bottom, but you know, the 360, I've got 400 games. I don't really know how many more I will be adding. One of the things that I've been looking to do for a long while now is somehow light up the compartments where my consoles are. I've looked at quite a few options of ways of doing this, but I think I've settled on the simplest and possibly the most effective option of doing it. There are of course multiple ways you can light up your cabinets. A lot of people use RGB rope lights, kind of little lights you stick around the sides. But basically I don't want to keep adding more and more wiring to already cluttered area of the games room. Also, sometimes I think they can be a bit too bright. You know, I don't want to take away from the fact I have a 65-inch TV, and I kind of want to always be able to concentrate on the actual game rather than just the lighting. So what I decided to go with is these smaller RGB spotlights, which I picked up from Amazon. So you basically get these in a packet of 6, and they are super simple to use. They literally can just stick using little tiny adhesive packs onto the top of your cabinet, and of course they have the 3 different colours. Also, one of the benefits of these, they do use AAA batteries and supposedly have 100 hours of battery life. So they come in packs of 6. I've got 12 areas to fit, so it's kind of simple to get 2 sets. One of the benefits as well, they do come with the classic remote that seems to come with all these RGB lights. So according to the Amazon reviews, you can use one remote over multiple sets. So let's see if that works. Let's get these set up in the games room. Placement is definitely one of the main things to consider when we are setting up the lights. So I've picked one of the cabinets which is slightly emptier, so you can kind of see how the lighting works a little bit more. It might be quite hard to tell at the moment as I am putting these in during the day. So I've kind of realised that the best place is near the back of the unit. If you come too far forward, you're going to get a lot of shadows, and the back just seems to give it the most light for its buck. If I zoom out a bit, you can see a little bit what I mean. So I'm going to get all these lights stuck in, and then we're going to see how these units look all lit up. The first light is in place. They are super simple to actually put in. So I have the remote here. Let's see how these look. So straight away, nice and bright. You can set them on flashing. You can set them on a strobe effect. You can set them on a nice smooth transition, or of course obviously you can go between any singular light. I think when I've got all 12 of these set up, they are going to look super cool. Here we go then, people, the moment of truth. I just want to point out, as you all know, I am absolutely terrible at DIY, and these were super simple. Literally, you just put the sticker on and plug them straight to the top of the units. It took me about 10 minutes to do all 12, which is pretty good DIYing for me. So here's the remote. Switch them on. The only thing is you do have to go across the board to change them, but I think they look really smart. Considering it's about midday, it's not that dark in the games room. I think when it gets super dark in here, these are going to look so cool. So pleased with it. So there we have it then, folks. That is the end of this week's video, and I hope it's given you some really good ideas for your games room. You know, at the end of the day, these are the places we come to relax, kick back and play video games, and we just want them to be the best places they possibly can be. They are always constantly changing and constantly evolving, so I'll be back later in the year with a full tour of the games room when I'm a bit more happy with a few little key items in the room. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to like the video. It really does help. And remember to subscribe, as I put new videos out every single Saturday. So once again, thanks for watching. And as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.